Hello and welcome to Take Time. I'm your host Patrick Marlatt, and today we are talking about the one and only Moonwatch. We all know the Omega Speedmaster's claim to fame, that its earlier reference, the ST-105.012, was the first watch worn on the moon by both Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. We know that since that reference, little has changed to this historically significant icon. It was amongst the last Speedmasters to include the caliber 321, then the cam-operated 861 before the rhodium-plated 1861 and 63. The most radical changes in regards to the Moonwatch's overall design come by way of bracelet, as well as the numerous dial variations of the Speedmaster Professional. However, today we're taking a look at the Moonwatch in review. What makes this a staple in so many collections, and the changes that should happen moving forward? Before I begin, I'd like to thank Max of Watches and Coffee over on Instagram for lending me his Speedy to review. Thank you so much for letting me borrow this for the time I've had it, so I can share my opinions of it with our audience here. As with all of my reviews here on the channel, I like to start with the bad and then move on to the good before giving my final verdict on a review item. So let's talk Moonwatch. Finally, most all brands have gravitated towards screw-in links, making the job much easier for consumers who prefer to handle that themselves. However, the next trend or bad habit in regards to brands we need to continue with across all model ranges is the micro-adjustable clasp. This feature typically being reserved for the dive watches in any brand's production, that being the Seamaster Professional for Omega, but the adjustable or ratcheting clasp needs to be a feature on every luxury watch with a bracelet. The selling point of diving watches being the only models to receive and or need a micro-adjusting clasp is absolutely absurd. The idea being that the micro-adjuster is for diving purposes. Now, while I don't have a Seamaster Professional in, I do have a Shinola here that features a clasp extremely similar to that of the Seamaster Professionals. Though the application of the adjuster is slightly different, you can see what I'm talking about here. There is a push button that allows you to adjust the fit of your bracelet on the fly. How great is that? Can we just take this in for a second? It locks into place and then you can go on your way. Now, why should this be a feature on every watch bracelet? Well, throughout the day, your wrists begin to swell, most often during your work or when you're putting your arms through any amount of strain. Personally, I love being able to adjust the fit of my bracelet during daily use. For a bracelet with only 2 levels of micro adjustment and no half links, I think a micro adjustment clasp would be a really useful feature. Sadly, the bracelet and clasp here are not as luxurious as the watch head it comes attached to. Now, I don't necessarily mind that the 1861 featured here doesn't hack. However, a sub-seconds hand? You're never going to be able to get this to line up precisely on the minute, not practically speaking. I'd argue that the 9 o'clock subdial would be better suited as a power reserve to monitor the 48 hours of life this watch maintains. The main argument for having a seconds hand being that you can tell the watch has power at a glance. Well, with a power reserve, I could do exactly that. And if I wanted to see the watch in motion, well, I could just do that. The sub-seconds hand serves simply as a reminder that the Speedmaster Professional hasn't come much further from where it started back in the late 1960s. Here's the thing, the Speedmaster Professional really should hack at this point. Instead, the 9 o'clock is there to display the Moonwatch's limitations. Now, aside from the aforementioned limitations of the bracelet lacking half links and the clasp only featuring 2 itty-bitty levels of micro adjustment, and the 1861's lack of hacking, the Omega Speedmaster Professional is one of the best damned watches I've ever held. The Omega Speedmaster measures 42 millimeters in diameter with 48 millimeters from lug end to lug end. It's 14 millimeters thick to the very top of that Hesselite crystal and features 20 millimeter lug widths. The asymmetrical case design and scale here are absolutely perfect. It's flattering on pretty much any wrist and wears extremely well on a 7¼ inch wrist. Speaking of, the scale of this watch is part of what makes it so iconic. The dimensions have remained near identical to the original ST105.012 that this shares a designed language with, the twisted lugs being a staple in many modern Omega designs, a signature of theirs, as well as the tacky being featured atop the bezel instead of under the glass, providing an extremely clean presentation of the subdials and main hour and minute hands. Though many watches feature a similar Lamania movement and display, the tri-compax composition of the Omega Speedmaster Professional is one of the most gorgeous presentations of a 3-register chronograph. No element breaks or disrupts any feature of the dial. It's simply perfection. And speaking of its looks, the Moonwatch makes for an ideal daily wearer. With its mix of professional sleek styling and playful dial display, it's a piece that you can wear no matter the occasion. Though its 5-bar water resistance rating does prevent it from some activities, it's perfect for nearly everything else. Now, before I give my final verdict on the Omega Speedmaster Professional or the Moonwatch, I'm going to provide you all with a wrist shot so you can see what it might look like on your wrist. Now, currently I have this on a Zulu Diver by Gakoda. I've always enjoyed the look of a bond strap on a Speedmaster. I think it's a really handsome look, even better than what a bond looks like on a Seamaster Professional, though you'll usually see those two in tandem with one another. I think this is just a fantastic look. Also, the bracelet, due to its limitations, just would not agree with my wrist, so I've had to find alternatives. But this has been a great alternative. I have to say, even with its 14mm thickness, it doesn't wear that tall on the wrist, and you'll see what I mean in just a second. But here is the Omega Speedmaster Professional on a 7¼ inch wrist for all of your admirers, and when you are going to admire it, it's going to look a little something like this. Now here's the man on the moon on a 7¼ inch wrist, and you can tell that the scale of the watch is really agreeable on 7¼ Again, it's 42mm in diameter, but the 48mm from lug end to lug end is perfect for most all wrist. It won't look like it's spilling off your wrist, and it does pair well, really well, with the bracelet, though I have to say they've left just enough relief for these nylon straps to fit under the watch head comfortably, which is very much welcome for those that want to try out different strap options. Though it would have been great to have a case with holes in the sides of the lugs so that you can switch this out more easily. The way it is now is perfectly fine cosmetically. Though the Omega Speedmaster Professional can bear a few improvements, I don't think there is a better luxury offering on the market so far as chronographs are concerned. Though retailed at over $5,000 by Omega, and that's for the Hesalite version of the watch I have here on a bracelet, the watch can usually be obtained for around $3,600 to $3,800 from online retailers such as Joma Shop. Now, if you wanted an iconic watch that wears and runs similarly to that of its original counterpart, there is no better option out there other than the Omega Speedmaster Professional. Omega, thank you for continuing the legacy. I've always admired Omega's design, and this truly is the crown jewel atop Omega's collection. It is a fantastic watch that's influenced the designs of many of their other pieces, and for good reason. It's just a handsome watch. They did such an amazing job with this piece, and I'm so glad to see they still create it today. Now gang, if you found this video enlightening or in the least entertaining, feel free to hit that like button. It looks a whole heck of a lot like this guy. If you have friends, forums, or groups that were interested in picking up the Omega Speedmaster Professional, well, feel free to share this video with them first so they can get another consumer's opinion on the watch. Also, if you're new to the channel, well, welcome. I do videos like this 2 or more times a week, so if watch content is your thing, feel free to slam that subscribe button, and while you're down there, you can hit a little bell icon next to that to be alerted as to when my videos air. Again, my name is Patrick Marlette, and thank you for the time.